Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to Bracy Sports Media. My name is Aaron Bracy, and I'm very happy to be joined today by Dave Isaac. Dave is the Flyers beat reporter for the Courier-Post newspaper. Dave, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. Brand new news network. I like it.
Well, we get to talk some Flyers. Obviously, we'd love to be in the press box talking about and watching the games, but unfortunately, that's not the case. But let's talk about when there was a season. The Flyers played 69 games. They had 89 points. We're in second place in the Metropolitan Division, and we're on an awesome streak. Had won 9 straight before losing to Boston on the last day on March 10th. What has been the key this year to the Flyers having so much success?
Well, I think that there were a lot of changes going in. Like Chuck Fletcher came in his first full off season and brought in a few guys. Kevin Hayes being the most costly of them against the paychecks. Matt Niskanen, Justin Braun. There were certainly some pieces there that you knew were maybe going to take a little bit of time. But I think the biggest piece of that puzzle was bringing in Alain Vigneault as a coach. And Kevin Hayes knew him well from both of their time in New York with the Rangers. And it took a while, as you'd expect. And all those things that had been trademarks of the Flyers for the last several seasons, maybe even decade, of these prolonged slumps and things like that started going by the wayside. And you started to see a guy with a really impressive resume behind the bench of NHL teams come in and really start taking this team to a new level. Now, you can't put all that credit on Vigneault's plate. There were guys taking steps in the right direction, young guys. I mean, Carter Hart showing he wasn't just a rookie sensation. Ivan Provorov didn't have a great year last year. He started to look more like Ivan Provorov. Travis Konecny was an all-star. Like, there were guys taking positive steps too, but I think it was just kind of everything coming together at the right time. And Alain Vigneault was, in my eyes, the one driving the bus on that.
The one thing that I really like from being down there and covering the games, the one thing that really stands out to me is he just has ability just to calm the whole room, just to put everybody at ease with a quip or a joke. And we don't obviously see what goes on behind closed doors. You do more than I do because you're at practice and stuff. But I imagine he's the same way with the players. Maybe you can speak to that. But do you agree that one of his biggest assets is just his personality and just kind of putting everyone at ease and just letting everyone relax?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think that comes from experience. He's taken 2 teams to Stanley Cup finals. He took the Rangers there and he took the Vancouver Canucks back in, I think it was 2011. You don't get there by accident. And when you do get there and in subsequent seasons, you maybe have that ability to relax a little bit more when things aren't going well because you can see that light at the end of the tunnel. There's definitely a little bit of an entertainer aspect to him too. I'm sure he's not exactly the same with the players. Each individual player is going to have a different relationship with the coach, and some guys like Kevin Hayes, swears by him and loves the guy. And there are probably some guys who he rubs the wrong way, I would imagine. But he does get everybody on board. And again, I think it's his resume that people go, okay, maybe I'm not a huge fan today, but you know what? This guy can back it up.
And if we're led to believe what he says is true, I'm guessing he's having 1 or 2 or more martinis while he's hanging out in Florida. Right?
Yeah, I guess they're quarantinis now.
Dave Isaac, Flyers beat reporter from the Courier-Post, joining us here on Bracy Sports Media. Dave, obviously we're going to be speculating. No one knows what's happening with the virus and when and if hockey will return. But there are some potential proposals on the table where they're talking about playing at some neutral sites, perhaps in North Dakota or New Hampshire or Saskatchewan are 3 places that I saw mentioned. What do you think about hockey's return, and what do you think about the idea of playing at neutral sites? Is that something that you think will appeal to players, or do you think that's something that's going to be really disappointing to lose that kind of home ice advantage?
I think it would be disappointing because whether it's the home ice advantage or you're the visiting team, there's a definite atmosphere just having tens of thousands of people in the building. And if they are going to neutral sites, like, they can't all converge on one city, so there would probably be North Dakota and New Hampshire if those are 2 places that the NHL has in mind. And I think it would definitely definitely be a weird, eerie feeling. I mean, you remember that baseball game that was played in Baltimore with no fans several years ago during the riots down there, and just how strange that was. And that was a one-off. That was a one-day thing. I mean, I remember reading those stories and seeing the media coverage of just how strange that was. In the press box, they could hear the conversations that were going on. And sometimes you could hear them when attendance isn't that great, but you would certainly be able to hear, the conversations and the screams and yells from the press box in an empty hockey arena. So that would be really weird. It would be something that they had finished whatever it was, 85% of the season, and the playoffs are so big, not just anecdotally, but really in the pockets too of the owners, like whatever number they attach to it, I'm not really sure, but bigger TV ratings for sure, bigger endorsement deals, all things like that. Like, to pull out all the stops and do something as uncomfortable as play in empty arenas in spots that are not typical for the NHL, it would be to try and make those paychecks as close to as whole as possible. So I don't think it would be anybody's preferred route, but it would certainly be interesting.
One of the challenges that hockey is going to have compared to the other major sports is a lot of hockey players are from overseas. And I'm wondering if you can talk about the Flyers. As far as I know, at least Michael Raffl, I believe, is home in Austria. Wondering if you could confirm that. And also, as far as you know, where else out of the country are any of the Flyers right now?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I believe that's correct. Michael Raffl's back in Austria. Some of the other guys, I'm not sure. I think Ivan Provorov is here. He usually goes back to Russia during the off season, but I believe he's still in North America. I'm not 100% on that. Jake Voracek's another one that is a question mark to me. I'm not sure if he would have gone back or if he's over here. But that list is kind of shorter than it's been in recent years. Pretty much a North American-based team when you look at their roster now. So I don't think there would be too many of them, but you're right. If you're going to open up pro sports again, probably particularly in hockey, I don't think that's as much true in the NBA, maybe Major League Baseball, although I'm not sure how many of those guys traveled back home or had the opportunity to. There would be the need for international travel. So that would be an interesting wrinkle if that were to have a hiccup somewhere. I mean, you always hear about guys getting traded and they have to wait on their visa and things like that.
Right.
There would be a training camp aspect to this, so you'd think there would be a little bit of runway to help with those kinds of little issues, but that's definitely one of several problems that they've going on.
Right. Dave Isaac, Flyers beat reporter for the Courier-Post, joining us here on Bracy Sports Media. Dave, if there is a return to the season, the Flyers could benefit in a way because obviously they had some injuries right before the break. JVR broke his right finger on March 4th. Phil Myers broke his kneecap, I believe, 3 games before the hiatus. And of course, then there's the issue of Nolan Patrick and his migraines, which has kept him out all season. Just wondering if you could update those injuries, and also, do you think those guys will be able to return healthy if and when hockey comes back?
Yeah, Nate Thompson had an injury too right before the break. I forget if it was a knee or a high ankle or something, but in any event, he's recovered. Phil Myers is recovered. Chuck Fletcher said the other day that James Van Riemsdyk would need another 1 to 2 weeks. So obviously, if they do come back, he will have been well cleared by then. And Nolan Patrick is once again the wild card. I thought it was kind of interesting, and I guess I didn't really understand why the Flyers did mention that he wasn't cleared for contact, because part of these guys, professional athletes that are injured, they still have some kind of a get out of jail free card as it relates to going to see the doctor and being able to get evaluated. But I don't know what that would look like for Nolan Patrick right now. Like, how does he get cleared for contact? What venue is there for that? And he's only going to have more time here. So, if they do start up, and like the soonest that they could do this from everything that's out there and that I've heard is July. That's another couple months for him to, continue to recover. And if he gets cleared for contact by then, then that changes the whole ball game. And I think he was getting kind of close as it was when the season was still running as scheduled. So yeah, there's a definite possibility there for the Flyers to get a huge boon if Nolan Patrick is able to be healthy, if they can resume the season. But there's still a lot of question marks there, but definitely an opportunity I see.
Dave, what have you noticed just looking at Myers? Because, he was having such a strong season before getting hurt. What has impressed you the most about not just him, but just the defense in general? And, Shane Gostisbehere can't even get on the ice. And, he's a couple, 2-3 seasons removed from, was he rookie of the year? Or I know he had a great rookie season.
Yeah.
But what has impressed you most about Myers and also some of the younger players on defense?
I think it's the ability to bounce back after a shift or two that maybe doesn't go their way. The decision making getting smarter in a game that's getting quicker and quicker and quicker every year. And part of that is opportunity. Like in seasons past, if a young guy made a mistake, he wasn't able to make up for it the next shift because he would be sitting. So I think knowing that there's still more runway left after a guy makes a mistake, the upside for most of these guys is so high that you really can't, in good conscience, sit a guy for making one mistake with the puck, right, because odds are he's going to be able to do it the next time. So I think that to me is probably the most impressive thing about Phil Myers, because there were times where he was struggling, especially with the puck on the stick. And his partner for a lot of this season, Travis Sanheim, I mean, if you remember, there were like 3 random weeks where he just couldn't skate. It's like,
right,
did somebody
that was early in the season. He was like falling over.
Yeah,
he looked like me on skates.
He was doing a Scott Hartnell impersonation every time he went out there. It was really bizarre. But they gave him the opportunity to try again, go out right there, and both of them ended up having pretty strong seasons. Again, hopefully it's not over, but I think they both bounced back really well. And we talked about Ivan Provorov, and that's a big bounce back because he was really quite poor last season. And Shane Gostisbehere was, continues to be an up and down road for him. And he's one guy where, you talk about Nolan Patrick maybe having new life. Shane Gostisbehere had an opportunity there with Phil Myers out of the lineup, and now all of a sudden, if they come back, Phil Myers would be healthy again. He'll have to fight for his ice time too. Yeah, exactly. So he's kind of in the opposite boat there.
Dave Isaac, Flyers beat reporter from the Courier-Post, joining us here on Bracy Sports Media. Dave, I just had a couple more things I wanted to cover with you.
Sure.
One of which is what the Flyers are doing right now. I've seen on the Flyers Twitter, Giroux's working out by bench pressing his newborn. Couturier, I saw, was running up and down the steps with the laundry basket, I think is what I read yesterday. I know you were probably on the conference call. But I'm guessing one of the hardest things for a hockey player is they can't get on the ice. And I'm just wondering, from talking to players, how hard is it for them to stay in shape right now? And how much of a factor is the fact that they can't skate into being able to stay in shape?
Yeah, that's what you always kind of hear about guys that get injured throughout the season. If it's one of those lower body injuries, they lose the ability to skate, and it takes them a little while to get their wind back. Now we're going on a month plus. It's going to take them a lot longer to get their wind back. And most guys, if it were a regular off season, aren't waiting that month. They're not off the ice for all of it. Maybe they're out there just doing a quick little twirl or whatever, but it's at least something. So that's why you hear a lot of these people, Gary Bettman going on news network saying, yeah, these guys are going to need a couple, 3 weeks, probably not a month, but 2 or 3 weeks just to get conditioned into game shape. Because even if they were in a city with rather nice weather and could get roller hockey skates on, big difference between roller hockey and right, ice hockey in terms of the skating and the muscles that you're using. Seems like it shouldn't be the case, but it is. And that'll be one of the interesting things. It's kind of be like that lockout season a few years ago. You come back and you see half the league has groin pulls because they weren't able to train properly. So I think if they come back, that's going to be a real risk.
So I guess best case scenario, the NHL's extended their quarantine to April 30th. Absolute best case scenario is a May 1st training camp, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, like you said. Best case, maybe hockey at Memorial Day. I mean, that's really optimistic, I would guess. I'm just
Very.
wondering, what do you think? What do you think? Sort of obviously worst case is not having a season. What do you think a best case scenario and a more like realistic scenario would be for the return?
Well, one of the things that they've talked about in terms of that schedule is looking at it in chunks. And I mean, April 30th, let's be honest, that's going to get punted again too,
Right.
Because that was, I think, the third time. Today was supposed to be that day that it ended, and that had been the second time. So this is now the third time that can's been kicked down the road. So that's going to happen a few more times, I think. The skate zone. I mean, of course, the Flyers have different rules for them, but at least to the public, they're saying that at least May 15th they're going to be closed, and I would suspect that gets moved as well. So I would think that the best case from everything I've heard is a start sometime in July. I don't know if that means July 1, but you're still looking at 3 months down the road, potentially something like that.
I got to tell you, that might be kind of fun, though. You think about our summers. I mean, I love baseball, but, we sit around, we watch baseball, and I love baseball. But if we actually have hockey in July and August, I mean, I don't know about you, but I think that would be pretty cool. I mean, we're going to love to have sports back anyway. But what do you think about a summer hockey season? Is that appealing to you, or is it just doesn't appeal like hockey season?
Well, I don't love the heat, so I'd be fine with being inside a big igloo and, a place where there's a lot of ice. I mean, that's one of the things that people have pointed to is, well, what quality is the ice going to be in July and August and things like that. So that would certainly be another wrinkle to it. But I think it would be interesting, especially because everything's gone dark now, right? If it all comes back at once, are you going to have if these sports were all in seasons before and now everything's all in the same season, do you lose a segment of the fan base that was there? Is everybody just so excited that they rush back to everything? And you see golf is talking about coming back in June. Obviously a little bit different there. They're individual sets of equipment, individual golf balls that they're playing with. They're generally standing more than 6 feet away from each other anyway. So it makes a whole lot of sense that golf would be able to come back first. But if everything else comes back at once, it would certainly be interesting. And I think, the NHL, I know, sees an opening for that, partially because the Olympics got kicked to next year. And now NBC has all this airtime that they could potentially use for something else. So, I think it would be fun. It would certainly be something different. I question what that next off season would be like. If there's talk about starting the next season in November. I mean, what do you have, like a 3-week off season at that point? Like this
3 weeks to play golf.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And those courses just opened up too. So
Dave Isaac from the Courier-Post Flyers beat writer joining us here on Bracy Sports Media. All right, Dave, I saved the toughest question for the last.
Oh boy.
What do you miss most, covering Flyers games or the post game at the Palladium?
Yes. I think Larry at the Palladium misses me more, but yeah, I mean all the interactions, right? Like there's only so much I can talk to the dog about and my wife about. I think they're getting tired of me, so definitely the interactions. That's something that you don't think in the moment that you'd miss as much as you do when you can't leave your house.
Well, Dave, I really appreciate you taking some time out, and we got to talk about the Flyers a little bit. Obviously, hopefully we'll be able to do it in a different situation in a press box or something like that sometime soon. But Dave, I really appreciate you joining us on Bracy Sports Media today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was fun.
And if you like our videos, please click on the notifications, subscribe, like, and hit the comments and tell Dave and I what you think today. Thanks everyone for joining us.